Here's a story that almost popped out of nowhere over the last 24 hours. Your take on this, then, Mr. Lowe, putting out an olive branch. I mean, to you of all people, I suppose.
Well, look, as Nigel said on Twitter yesterday evening, we're willing to talk to any political party who share our values. And, you know, we've been campaigning for these values a long time. I've dedicated my life to them. Nigel's dedicated decades of his life to them. We want secure borders. We've just announced, obviously, today we'll deploy His Majesty's Royal Navy in the Channel to make sure no illegal boat makes it to our shores. We want the mass deportation.
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think.
Of all illegal migrants already in Britain, well north of 1 million people there. We want law and order to be upheld. We want taxes to come down. You know, these are the things that we're fighting for. And look, we're fighting to win, because one thing I know enough about British history to know coalition governments achieve absolutely nothing of any value. Nobody gets what they hoped for or wanted. There's only one party. There's only one party with a real chance of a majority. And under our first past the post system, on the right, sorry, one party with a chance of winning on the right. That is Reform. We don't take anyone's vote for granted. We know we've got to work incredibly hard. We'll keep doing it to earn the vote of everybody who in this country who shares the values that I just spoke about.
So, and that would include Rupert Lowe, I would assume.
Yeah, look, as Nigel said yesterday, we're open to speaking to anybody who shares those values. We're open to talking to other parties. But of course, you know, look, in the end, in order for us to turn this great country around, we need everybody, as I said, who shares those values, who wants us to actually have a border, who thinks that immigration law should be upheld, who thinks that if you came here illegally, you should never be allowed to stay, let alone get taxpayer funded life, you know, basically for the rest of your life. And in that spirit, yeah, we want. So
is that a firm yes to Rupert Lowe? You are happy to get into some kind of pact with him?
Well, again, so it's specifically rather pact. As I said, a coalition government, right, which is what you would then be talking about. If you're talking about, that's what you're talking about. History shows, whether you look at the Lib Dems and the Tory, you know, any of those in history, nobody gets what they want.
But wouldn't it be emerging here? Would it not be? I mean, if this was pre-election, would this not be emerging? So Restore would no longer exist, and Rupert would sit round the table. You'd be breaking bread, laughing about that moment with the cops, and oh God, what fun we had back in the day when we hated each other, and we're all mates again. Can you see that happening?
Well, look. The first point to make is that it's unclear that that's what it wasn't clear to me that that's what we were talking about. I think he was talking about a cooperation of some kind. And again, that's the point I would make. You know, we've come into politics under a first past the post system. You need to win a majority. Coalitions, i.e. cooperations in government, they achieve absolutely nothing. There is one party that has a real chance of winning a majority on the right in this country. We're going to fight to win. And we'd encourage everybody who shares the values that I talked about, who want mass deportations, who want a secure border, who want law and order, who want British people to come first, to get behind reform. But having said that, as Nigel said, of course we're willing to engage and talk to people from other parties, and that would include Rupert, yeah.
Would the door be open for him? No, I'm not just sort of hammering the point for the sake of it, but it is, unfortunately, centred to this kind of almost conundrum that's been thrown up at the weekend, because there's a lot of areas that you can tuck into on this. Would the door be open by Reform for Rupert Lowe to rejoin the party, if that is what it would take? Could you imagine? I mean, you had an almighty fallout. We know that, you know, you were sort of centred to this row. Could you forgive and sit down and have a cup of tea with Rupert Lowe?
Well, if you're asking, so two different points there, right? If you're asking me, look, I'm open to whatever's in the best interest of the country. That's why I got to politics. So that would be the first point. The second point would be the only person who can answer that specific question is the leader of our party, because that would be Nigel. So I suggest you put that to him.
No, that's fair. Would you be comfortable, though, with Rupert Lowe back around?
Listen, I got into politics. What matters is not my level of comfort. What matters is what's in the interests of the country. What is in the interests of the tens of millions of people in this country who can see the Britain we grew up in, the Britain we love, slipping away from us very, very quickly. That's what matters.
OK. I was going to say, maybe all of this is now academic, because over the weekend, And Zia, I could hardly believe this was happening. Andy Burnham went to Dover and spoke about immigration. I mean, who would have thought it? Because he'd said absolutely nada on this for the last couple of weeks, and I was beginning to wonder whether he even knew there was a problem. And what he's done, he's scooped it all up. He's now owned the conversation. He's going to be relentless, so you can stand down your Navy boats. There won't be any need for it because Andy Burnham, a Labour Prime Minister, Zia Youssef, has solved the problem. What do you say?
Yeah, he just strikes me as sort of a new supply teacher who arrives in a classroom and just thinks, if everyone just holds hands and sings Kumbaya, and he sort of tries to, and he does some videos about bread and fruit and things to sort of, claim he's on people's side. Look, he's definitely a better communicator than Keir Starmer. That's for sure. I think, he definitely did some things as mayor that people like, clearly. Otherwise, he wouldn't command the support that he does, particularly in the north. But here's what's clear about Andy Burnham. I see no evidence, someone who ran a company, for example, that he is going to be a high-functioning executive. And the scale of the challenge, you look about the small boats crisis.
Yeah.
The fact that we are now talking about official policy being deploying the military to say, no, not a single illegal boat makes it to our shores, and we will be met by our Royal Marines every single time if you try to do it, and we'll take them back to France, demonstrates how difficult this problem has been. There's a reason why the Tories and Labour refused to solve the problem. There's no evidence that Andy Burnham will. So what he's done is he's gone to Dover, because he's a content creator at the moment, as much as he's a Prime Minister, probably more so a content creator. So he's trying to show he cares about the problem. Let's see what happens. I am not seeing any evidence that he's doing anything different to previous Labour and Tory governments who have just made this problem worse.
And from what I can gather as well, he's talking about sort of opening safer routes and legal and all this kind of stuff, which is, frankly, it's that kind of talk that got the two previous main parties into this bother in the first place by not identifying what people are looking for and what the appetite is for real, robust change.
It's ridiculous. It's like saying, I know that there are lots of, random men turning up in your house and breaking in through the windows. But good news, we've now unlocked the door so they can just come in through there. Your windows will be fine. It's a complete nonsense. People don't want to hear about safe and legal routes for people from other countries. What they want is safety and legality for British people. And, one of the reasons we've announced this policy to use the Navy and use our armed forces to defend our borders is
when the political tectonic plates in Westminster start shifting, the establishment usually acts as if nothing is amiss until the ground splits open directly beneath their feet. On Britain Underneath, we strip away the sanitised parliamentary theatre to unearth the calculated gambits shaping our nation. Right now, a curious political dance is unfolding between Reform UK and former allies, exposing the raw power struggles quieted by the daily news cycle. Before we submerge ourselves into this captivating exchange, hit that subscribe button to join Britain Underneath right now, and let us venture into the depths of modern British power. The air across the political divide is thick with manoeuvring. We recently witnessed a fascinating exchange on Talk TV, where the anchor pressed Zia Youssef, chairman of Reform UK, on the sudden olive branch extended by Rupert Lowe and the prospect of an electoral pact. The journalist opened the dialogue with direct intrigue, observing that here is a story that almost popped out of nowhere over the last 24 hours. Your take on this, then? Mr. Lowe putting out an olive branch, I suppose, to you of all people? Zia Youssef responded without missing a beat, echoing the stance set out by party leadership. As Nigel said yesterday evening, we are willing to talk to any political party who share our values. We have been campaigning for these values a long time. I have dedicated my life to them. Nigel has dedicated decades of his life to them. We want secure borders. We have announced today we will deploy His Majesty's Royal Navy in the Channel to make sure no illegal boat makes it to our shores. We want the mass deportation of all illegal migrants already in Britain, well north of 1 million people there. We want law and order to be upheld. We want taxes to come down. These are the things that we are fighting for. And look, we are fighting to win. Because one thing I know enough about British history to know is that coalition governments achieve absolutely nothing of any value. We are open to talking to other parties, but of course, in order for us to turn this great country around, we need everybody who shares those values, who wants us to actually have a border, who thinks that immigration law should be upheld, and who thinks that if you came here illegally, you should never be allowed to stay, let alone get taxpayer-funded support for the rest of your life. Seeking absolute clarity, the presenter probed if that was a firm yes to Rupert Lowe, and whether Reform UK would enter a formal pact with him. Yousaf countered directly, explaining that specifically regarding a pact or a coalition government, history shows, whether you look at the Liberal Democrats or any other coalition in history, nobody gets what they want. The journalist then painted a vivid picture of the political optics, asking if this meant pre-election moves where parties would no longer exist, and whether Rupert Lowe would sit around the table, breaking bread and laughing about past disputes, asking if Yousaf could see that happening. Yousaf carefully dismantled the premise, noting that the first point to make is that it was not clear that that was what was being discussed. He noted that cooperation of some kind was mentioned, but emphasised that under a first-past-the-post system, a party needs to win an outright majority. Coalitions and formal government cooperations achieve nothing. There is one party that has a real chance of winning a majority on the right, and they intend to fight to win. The anchor refused to let the point rest, asking whether the door would be open for Rupert Lowe to rejoin the party, if that was what it took, asking Yousaf if he could personally forgive past disputes and sit down for a cup of tea. Yousaf replied with measured focus, stating that if asked personally, he is open to whatever is in the best interest of the country, as that is why he entered politics. He added that the only person who can answer that specific question about party re-entry is the party leader, Nigel Farage. When asked if he would personally be comfortable with such a return, Yousaf concluded that what matters is not his personal level of comfort, but what is in the interest of the country and the tens of millions of people who see the Britain they grew up in slipping away. The conversation then shifted as the presenter brought up broader policy discussions, noting that former political figures and Labour leaders have entered the immigration conversation, claiming ownership of the topic. Yousaf responded sharply, describing such political manoeuvres as akin to a new supply teacher arriving in a classroom, assuming everyone can hold hands and sing, while filming promotional clips about everyday issues to claim they are on the public side. He acknowledged that while some leaders are skilled communicators, there is no evidence of high-functioning executive execution to meet the scale of the national challenge. He argued that public services are under immense strain, and simply opening alternative legal frameworks does not solve border integrity. He analogized it to telling a homeowner that while men are breaking through the windows, the front door has now been unlocked for them instead. He maintained that what the British public wants is safety, legality, and order. This exchange reveals the tactical calculations driving Westminster today. Political movements must balance uncompromising principles with pragmatic strategy under a first-past-the-post system. While mainstream commentary focuses on soundbites, the underlying reality is a struggle over who truly commands the narrative of national renewal. If you value deep, unvarnished political analysis that uncovers the mechanics behind the headlines, take a breath, stay informed, and please hit that subscribe button to support Britain Underneath. Your subscription directly powers our independent coverage, ensuring we continue digging beneath the surface of British power. Subscribe now, return for our upcoming investigations, and stay ahead of the political curve.